Welcome to the Wake Her Up podcast. I'm your host, Marcella Hill. Feel like something's missing in your life? Well, it's probably you. You are not crazy. You are not alone. You have found your people. We are waking up our souls and our bodies to claim a life of feeling awake and alive. Join me as we share women's awakening stories and learn from experts about perimenopause and what we need to feel alive through the greatest awakening of women's lives. Welcome to the next women's movement we call Wake Her Up. I am thrilled to be here today. So May's Women's Clinic is out in New York, in Purchase, New York. And even though they're a local clinic, so they might not be available for all of you, they are incredible. I feel like it gives you this clear sense of what is available out there. And I'm so excited to introduce you to the type of provider that we all deserve, and what they're doing, how they're doing it. And also let's talk about you. Let's talk about your symptoms, what you should be looking for, and what type of provider you should be expecting to find. Okay, we are bringing on Melissa, and I believe Susan. Is that Susan I see in the background? Yes. Okay, we're bringing on Melissa from May's Women's Health. I'm going to add you in here.
Hello.
Hi, we did it. Hello. Oh my gosh. I've watched you for a year. We've watched each other for a year and we've never talked face to face. How crazy is that?
Hi. Hello. Hi, Marcella. How are you?
Well, welcome. And thank you so much. I just have to say, first and foremost, you are one of the very first providers that I talked to back in, what was that, June last year. I remember sitting at the pool and we were chatting about how you work, what kind of provider you are, your philosophy. And I had no idea that the type of care that you give even existed. I did not even know that a doctor like you, with the philosophies you have, was available. And it brought me so much hope for all of these women that were just desperately seeking. And I thought, oh, we have got to be able to put more people like you in front of these women and show them what can exist. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being who you are and taking a chance on this whole viral situation to be able to put yourself in front of it. We just really appreciate what you've done and how you've shown up for us.
Okay, thanks. So just want to introduce myself again.
Yes.
So I'm Melissa. I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm not a physician. So when you say doctor, I just want to
clarify that. Thank you.
And I'm here with Helen Leff, who is a social worker and one of our therapists at May's Women's Health. And I think what makes May's so unique is our approach to care, which is a dual model. So our patients are seen by a clinician who works on the medical end of things, drawing blood, doing exams, medications, things like that. And they're also seen by a therapist who works on the biosexual social piece. And I think that is what makes May's unique, because we specialize in sexual health and it's complicated and it's really not one size fits all. There's a lot of factors that are involved, and there's often, medical complications and physical things. And then there's also psychological things and relationship issues. So that's just a little bit about us.
Do you mean like we're all of that is in one person? I feel like we've been treated like we're these little separate parts, for so long. It's so incredibly refreshing to hear someone in a white coat, telling us that our mental health matters, that it affects our body, because I think we all know that it does. And then we feel crazy when someone's like not asking us what we eat, but then is just going to immediately give us an antidepressant and tell us like, bye, right? So thank goodness for you. So I want a little more information about you I'm going to say personally, but Melissa specifically, how did you end up here? Like,
Okay.
how did you get here?
So I've been a nurse practitioner for over 20 years. I started my career in women's health, routine GYN family planning. So I did that for a while. And then I was looking for a second job, and I answered a little ad looking for someone interested in sexual health. This practice was Dr. Werner, my collaborating physician, and our medical director here at Mays was looking for a nurse practitioner who had experience in women's health to explore female sexual dysfunction. And so I've been working with him for actually 20 years now. And so 20 years ago, the sexual health field was really just starting. There were no FDA approved medications for women. Everything that we were doing had very little research. It was all experimental. And this was also about the time when WHI came out, and basically everyone was told like hormones are the devil. So it was an interesting time to start exploring this field. And I was lucky enough to have a collaborator like Dr. Werner, who was really interested in the female side of things, and also Dr. Batsheva Marcus, who was really our founder and our director, who was a social worker and had her PhD in human sexuality, and really felt like women's issues were being ignored, especially in the sexual health field. So that was where I started, and I just kept going with it, and I found that I really loved it, and I'm really passionate about women's health and sexual health specifically, because we all should be having good sex and more sex. That's my background.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And then Helen, I have not met you before, so I'm excited to get to know you. So tell us about what your role is in working with the patient and how you guys work together.
Yeah, so this is an integrated model. And we believe, like, when there's physiological issues, there's usually an emotional component. When there's pain, discomfort, or just like not feeling well in your own body, we want to address that from every aspect. And, so again, like integrating, it's one person, lots of different parts. And we like to, really help whoever comes in with whatever it is that they need, and we recognize all parts.
This is amazing to me. How did this come about? Was this when the clinic was set up? Was that part of the plan, or did
yes?
That
was the vision. The vision was the vision that Dr. Werner and Dr. Marcus they started, was that they really wanted our practice to be unique, in that from the beginning, incorporating that psychosexual behavioral component alongside the medical piece. So what we find with our patients is that we often start out together working with them, and some patients need more of the therapeutic model and other patients need more of the medical model, but we kind of try to like always sort of join back. Yes. And it's a really good way to check in with each other.
I have to say, I didn't know that we're going to dive exactly into this story of mine, but there is so much about what you do that resonates with me. I grew up Mormon. So in my religion, sex was not talked about. It was very much sin until you were married. And then you're supposed to just like know what you're doing. And then even within marriage, there's like tons of taboo, there was never this moment in time where like pleasure was for me. That was not ever, I literally never heard that ever. And so when my libido tanked, it starts affecting my marriage. I get the physical medical help, right? Like my hormones. And then all of a sudden my libido kicks in. Well, here I am married. I've been married for 12 years. And all of a sudden this libido goes way high. And bizarrely, I start feeling shame. and I don't know what to do with this libido. I don't know how to like assert myself. I don't know how to feel like I want you without feeling like a hooker. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I was like, what is wrong with me? I am an adult, I'm married. Like, I should be able to jump all over my husband. And I had to really deconstruct a lot of that. And it's interesting when I'm talking to a lot of my audience, it's a lot of women are like, wait, I'm on the hormones. How come this isn't working out? And I'm like, well, there might be a lot more, than just fixing your body. And so I love that you are seeing women as a whole picture. I think that is, it's honestly everything. If we saw ourselves as a whole picture, that would change everything. But to have people tell us that we're not crazy and help us with all of the factors, because all of us just want the one button, right? We want just like put the hormones in, we'll have sex and it won't bother us anymore and we're going to go good to go. But we have not deconstructed all of the garbage that is on women in general. Aside from religion, right? You guys see it all the time. And so tell me what, maybe just like obviously high level experiences, what do you typically see? I love talking to providers. What do you typically see with a new patient? Like, tell me, what does she look like when she's walking in for the first time? What's kind of her story, kind of your average patient? And then walk us through, answer that, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So because we are a sexual health center, we see all aspects of sexual dysfunction. So we are seeing, low libido and menopause, but we also do see women who have issues with orgasm, arousal, and painful intercourse. So our typical patient really does vary because, we see this whole gamut. I think for your audience, sort of, we're talking about that, the woman who's either in perimenopause or menopause who comes in and is feeling that their libido has dropped, their marriage is suffering, or if they're not married, their relationship with their partner is suffering because of their lack of drive. If there's menopause also mixed in with this, we have a lot of vaginal complaints of dryness or low arousal, or just everything is just not feeling like it's working. And so, that patient will come in, will present to Helen first. Helen does a very detailed psychosexual intake. And I think what's really useful that Helen does is she really takes the time to dive into, the relationship and past relationships and past sexual experiences.
And the specifics.
Right.
Because they're important.
Yeah.
Helen, do you see patterns in women? I'm assuming just from like the environment that we're in, just how we've grown up in the society, the pressures and our women's bodies and all of that. Like, what are some of those similarities that you can pinpoint that you would say most women come to the table with?
So I think that, one of the things is women, number one, blaming themselves, feeling the guilt, the shame, mismatched libido. We also see women who were feeling really good at one point and really miss what's now not, what they're not feeling. And really helping women see that, they're not broken, there are options, there's treatment, there are things to do, is, pretty much what we see. Through libido, arousal, orgasm, pain.
Right. Yeah. And my piece really is, the first visit is, exam focused, it's very diagnostic in that I'm taking blood. I'm going to be looking at levels. I'm doing a physical exam. I do a very detailed pelvic exam. I look at the clitoris in a very detailed manner. That's, people often are like, I've never even looked with a mirror. I use a mirror. Sometimes I use a camera. I can take pictures. I feel the pelvic floor. I'm looking at the tissue. And we take a lot of time, which I think, we have the luxury of doing that, where most routine gynecologist really have 10 or 15 minutes to try to address sexual health or either menopause. And I really feel like that's not enough time. So I think a lot of our patients have felt either rushed or ignored from other providers because they just really don't have the time to do a 45-minute psychosexual intake and then a 45-minute exam. And then together, Helen and I will meet and kind of put the pieces together and meet with the patient as a threesome. And we will like review everything and we'll come up with a plan. I typically always have some sort of medical intervention that I can do. And then Helen often has behavioral suggestions, and then working with the patient, deciding, where do you want to go? What do you want to try first? What do you want to do? I always like to talk about most bothersome symptoms, right? So because, for me, I feel like if anyone's having pain, I want to address that first, because it's really hard to, move past that if every time you're having pain. When it comes to menopause, like sometimes libido isn't a most bothersome symptom. It's more the mood swings, the hot flashes, the night sweats, those things. So I tend to kind of like little by little sort of piece out, where do you want to address first? I try not to throw too many things at once, because I think like this is more of a like long-term project. I like to tell my patients, like, this isn't going to, be like, we can't fix everything in 2 weeks. So we like to say, you need to give us like 6 months, like we're gonna like continue to work. And as long as you come back and keep giving us feedback on what's working, what's not working, we will then continue to work with you to try to improve all aspects of your sexual health, mental health, women's health.
I just feel like you're just this heavenly, honestly, you're what should just exist in general. It's crazy that you're an anomaly, which is insanely sad, but this is what women already know they need. It just makes sense. It's so beautiful what you do. And I hear you so loudly when you say women need like that continued encouragement to like keep going. Mm-hmm. One of the beautiful things about this whole project is how like over 32,000 women have dumped into a Facebook community, the Facebook Wake Her Up community. And one of the things that I see the most powerful there is that women are finding providers, but then they're not giving their bodies, their mind, they're not giving themselves enough time, right? They'll jump in, they'll do it for a month or two, they'll come back and say, I spent all this money, I don't feel better, I'm out, this didn't work for me, I guess it doesn't work for me. And then you'll watch in this community, hundreds of people will comment like, no, like you're worth it, like you got you, like we're gonna, okay, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And they're like all sharing their stories. We had a woman just a few weeks ago share her story, and she said, I saw, like I was here a year ago, I've watched all of you do this whole time, thinking that it was never going to work for me. And I kept going. And this last week, my libido kicked in, and she'd been doing it for, working on her for a year. And I was like, that, women just need to know that they matter. Just feeling heard, knowing that you're worth the time, the energy, the effort for someone to even just put the type of clinic together that you have already makes women feel like they're cared for. So kudos to you. This is just, I just want to help duplicate you like a million times. I hope that there are other providers listening to this that think, oh, maybe I should team up, with a therapist, because I just don't see how that wouldn't be that difficult. Right? I just think let's work together. I think that's beautiful. When you do see some of your patients start to feel good, what does that look like? I love asking and redefining, because I think women just don't even know what feeling good is. I think that's a problem, right? We just want to be able to sleep, but I think we could do better than that. So for you, what is kind of your goal to help them when a woman walks in and you're like, we nailed it? Like, what
describe that woman to me. What is she like?
I mean, when you're feeling more satisfaction, like satisfaction is a very, very important concept. And whatever that looks like to that individual, we really want to hear from them. What's been useful? What's helping?
Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think for me, it does go back to sort of that first intake and sort of trying to figure out like, again, going down the list of what's your most bothersome symptom, what can we improve, and then like each time we sort of accomplish that, it's sort of going to that next layer. I mean, I think because we're a sexual health center, like I want my patients who are coming in and saying, I haven't had sex in 6 months to, once we're at the point where they're like, yeah, we're having sex once a week and it's great. Like, and I look forward to it. And sometimes I'll think to myself like, wow, it's already been a week. Yeah. Like, of course we want to have sex again, So, I think that expectations, we want to like, there are expectations, I think, that are realistic and unrealistic. So we do want to address those because, we aren't going to change who somebody is, but, but we are going to try to get them at least, get them back to where they remember being when things were great. Or, we do see some women who feel like I've never really felt any pleasure. I've never had pleasure. And sort of, I think those women, I think, are especially challenging, but also so rewarding because we really help to get them to explore themselves and start navigating a part of themselves that they've, never experienced before. So that I think is really rewarding.
Yeah.
I love that. And I'll just speak from I can only speak from my own experience, but learning pleasure, learning orgasm, learning what that does for my brain, learning what it does for my moods, my body, all of these benefits. Like I didn't know that it decreases inflammation. I didn't know that it decreases pain. I didn't know all of these insanely powerful benefits. And when I started practicing pleasure in all different kinds of ways, it has just illuminated my soul. I mean, it just feels like this little secret power that has been so diminished down to, us giving something to somebody else. I don't know that I never learned that it was this power, this almost like a, your vitamins for the day kind of a thing. I did not ever hear women talk about how that was a part of their wellness practice. Right. And it has very much become a part of my wellness practice to the point where I'm talking about it publicly. Right. Like, and that was not a thing. And I'm talking to my daughters about it, and I'm talking to my friends about it. And it just lights your soul. So I'm sure that you've seen like people probably left their, gotten the power to be able to leave abusive relationships that weren't serving them anymore, or double down on, being able to jump back in or get new ones, or even like illuminate their careers. I mean, I'm sure that you've seen women they probably walk, I've heard the stories, women walk in kind of like faded out, and then they walk in like all awake and alive. What an incredible type of work to be doing, where you're just watching, you're literally saving lives. It's amazing.
That's sweet. I mean, I think something that Helen talks about sometimes with patients, which I think is really important to think, is that we are given this false narrative that like sexual, it's just so natural and it just comes easy, and like this is what's just supposed to be and happen, and like you're gonna just fall in love and everything's gonna be perfect, and you're gonna have amazing orgasms, and then it's gonna like happen from intercourse, and like that's not true.
It takes work.
And it can take some work. I mean, I'm sure there are some women out there where that happened for, but like I think in our experience is that it can be helpful to tell women that like, you can learn these things, and it's not, it's not all natural, and you can, change your, your outlook and your body and new experiences. And And I always say, like, it's not too late.
Never.
It's not too late. I always say, never give up on your vagina. Like, you can always, help, get to that place that you want to be, as long as you don't sort of give up on yourself and keep trying.
Well, isn't it interesting that it always comes back to like getting to know yourself, right? Like, instead of expecting someone else to like bring you pleasure, it's like you knowing that you matter enough to explore your body, know your body, connect with your mind and your soul and all of the things so that you can have pleasure. I just think the whole thing is kind of mind-blowing, because I feel like I lived in this tiny little box for so long not knowing it. And now it's this whole world of women talking about things that I just never talked about. I didn't know existed. I didn't know they mattered. I didn't know they were a problem. I didn't know they mattered. I didn't know it could light you up. I just knew nothing. And so for you to be able to help women understand that they have this power and how to access it is just a beautiful thing. So let's talk about specifically women. I mean, we all know this now. Most women don't know that they are experiencing a hormone imbalance. They think something's wrong with their vagina, or something's wrong with the actual, it's painful to have intercourse. They think something's physically wrong. And then there's a million other symptoms that I was never connecting. So let's just run through really quick, like the high level symptoms, if you can run through those, so that someone listening can kind of, that might be me, right? So tell us what you would say those are.
So as women age, we go through phases in our life, right? So we have this period leading up to menopause, menopause is defined as 12 months with no period, right? So the time leading up to that point is called perimenopause. And then after that point is postmenopause. And all the symptoms sort of leading up to that, there are a lot of different symptoms. I think the ones that are most common that everyone sort of knows about are what we call the vasomotor symptoms, which are the night sweats, the hot flashes, some of the other symptoms. Sleep disturbance, I think, is huge. I think women can start having sleep issues like in their early 40s and even still be cycling fairly regular, but still I think our ovaries are just not as efficient anymore. So I think we start having sleep issues. Some mood changes, right? Our estrogens are not as, they're fluctuating more. So we tend to have more spikes and drops. So we tend to see more mood swings. Cycle changes too. Women sometimes get heavier, crampier, clottier periods as they're getting, closer to menopause. Some, they just get lighter and further apart. Sometimes anxiety, depression, like that can sometimes occur. For sure, vaginal changes, dryness, lack of lubrication, lack of arousal, weakening orgasm, drop in libido, all those sexual changes occur.
Weight gain.
Oh, yeah, I think weight is something that women struggle with as they're going through menopause. I think it's harder to lose weight. Women tend to, put on a little more weight during that time. It's just your metabolism changes.
Brain fog, concentration.
Yeah, brain fog, memory, concentration. That's a big one. So that's a lot. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. And a lot of women are overwhelmed because they are experiencing so many of these. And if we knew it was kind of like all related to one thing, it would feel maybe a little less overwhelming, rather than like, I need a lotion for this, I need a doctor for this, I need to fix my relationship for this, like my bones ached was one of my biggest I could not run anymore. I thought I had osteoporosis. I thought my bones were literally falling apart. I mean, it was so bad. I was going to the chiropractor all the time. It wasn't helping. And I mean, and then all the things, like my scalp was dry. I wasn't connecting my dry scalp with my bones hurting. That was not one thing, right? I was like, got to change my shampoo and take some Advil, right? I mean, and then behold, a little testosterone and some progesterone, and it's like all gone. So I love that. I mean, there are a lot, and it does sound overwhelming, but for me, knowing that was one thing felt helpful. right? Because you're not pieced out.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
hey, what are
Yeah.
some surprising ones that maybe we wouldn't know about?
I think that I think, you're like joint pain. I think a lot of people don't think joint pain can be something that exacerbates in menopause, but that definitely, I think, I actually feel like anxiety for women, I think, is just blamed as like, well, you're just anxious, like that. It's like another piece, like, oh, but I do think anxiety with hormonal shifts can be something we see a lot. I think a lot of women go on anti-anxiety medications during menopause because anxiety is a symptom sometimes, and it can be really helpful. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think sometimes if, the hormones aren't also addressed, right? And, it really is individual. I think if there's any sort of underlying, anything underlying in your body, like if you may be prone to thyroid disease, like it'll probably be more apparent during menopause. Or if you are prone to arthritis, it'll probably be more apparent during menopause. If you have IBS, like when all your hormones shift, like maybe you'll have more GI symptoms. Like I think that when you have all those fluctuations in your hormones and you don't have that good base of estrogen and testosterone sort of keeping you balanced, things just get thrown off in your body.
Some of the things that we've seen, and I mean, I want to make sure everyone knows, like, I am not a medical professional at all whatsoever, but I am having millions of women across the world tell me their story. And so from that high level, there are things that you gather that are like, well, that's weird. Like, hundreds of thousands of women are saying that their shoulder hurts, right? Like this frozen shoulder thing that some doctors will say it's totally related, others won't. But in the end, a whole bunch of women around 40 to 45, their shoulder hurts, right? So there's that. The itchy ears is, anytime I mention itchy ears, it's like a million hands will go up, be like, that's me. Again, some doctors will say it is, it isn't, but magically it seems to go away as soon as they start on, hormones.
Right.
So, those are things that I didn't know about. Like my dry legs, they're gone. I just thought I had dry legs for years. I was just trying to drink more water, which you should drink more water, but that wasn't helping, right? Those are the two. And then probably the biggest ones that I didn't know about were the heart palpitations. Those are the ones where women are like, I went to the ER, they couldn't figure it out. And now we have Oprah sharing her story, right? That she thought she was having heart attacks and not even her doctors could figure out. So those are big ones that I think when women think they're dying, wouldn't that be nice to be like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm not going to die.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what, I think because there are so many symptoms, I think that's what almost makes it harder. Yeah. If it was just hot flashes and night sweats, like it'd be easy. Like, everyone kind of gets that, right? But, the other pieces, I mean, dryness over your whole body, really, with menopause, right? Yeah. Estrogen helps plump things up, make things,
I always think, wouldn't it be funny not funny, it would be tragic, but like think about puberty and all the millions of changes our bodies go through. What if we didn't know that that was puberty? What if we thought that like growing hair was like a totally separate thing than growing boobs, right? Like what if getting our period was totally separate than us like suddenly liking boys? Like what if all of that was like all separate individual things? We would just think like our bodies are just like,
right. I think
and that's what's happening now.
Yeah, I think it's a really good parallel, puberty and menopause, because they're two very drastic changes that happen in your body. And no one questions puberty. Like when your child is like out of their mind, you're like, that's her hormones, and it's and you're very patient with them. And I think that, women aren't patient with themselves.
I was thinking about, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
No, I feel like that's something that we need to recognize is that we're going through very, very big shifts.
when you start looking at it from a puberty standpoint, when you're like, okay, let's just pretend we're all in junior high again, it makes so many things make sense. I have a lot of women around me that are trying to change their style, right? Like they're like, I don't know what my style is. I don't know what I like. And I was like, oh my gosh, we did this in junior high, right? Like you'd show up goth, you'd show up in dresses, you'd show up in mini skirts, you try all these things on because like, you're just trying to figure it out. And then here we are at 40, think we're going out of our mind, but no, it's just like a bigger, more dramatic thing of, puberty, basically. You're totally changing, which means like what you were before just doesn't work out. So yeah, if you're changing all of the things, for me, religion, right? For me, like how I dress, for me, all of these things were part of this phase. And I think that's why it's so insanely important for clinics to exist like you, that are completely integrated, from talking about your soul, your past, your belief system, talking about your emotional wellness and your health. Because if this is puberty, that's literally what we're doing. And nobody's looking at it like that. And so I'm so grateful that you are. And I really hope that you are setting this precedence. And for you to be able to be in front of these hundreds of thousands of women watching, being aware of you, they're going to expect this when they walk into another clinic. They're like, well, where's your therapist? Right. And I think as women, when we get all together and we're like, hey, this is what we're doing, you imagine hundreds of thousands of women going to their clinic and saying, well, don't you have a therapist? That's going to be thousands of clinics being like, oh, I guess that's the new standard. Like we will set the standard. And it is people like you that are giving us the ideas as to what can be the standard. It is beautiful what you're doing. I mean, it really is. I can't even say it enough. For you, what do you hope for the next couple of years? What do you hope to see in this world of perimenopause and women's health? What do you, as you're there in New York in your clinic, but what do you hope to see happen on a big scale?
More conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to see it now.
Yeah.
And I think we're now finally moving past WHI, which, for most providers that are my age, who've been practicing for about 20 years, which is a huge portion of the gynecologists and OBGYNs out there, it was really drilled into our heads at one point, like that don't give women hormones, right? Like that was like, and if you have to for very tiny amount and for a very short period of time. And so we really have shifted from that. And I think what's great is I think providers are hopefully now really learning like the new guidelines and the importance of menopausal hormone therapy, the importance of testosterone as well as estrogen and progesterone, more providers being comfortable prescribing hormones to patients, because access, I think, is still limited. And, not everybody can come to a maze. And so, we need more providers that are just comfortable having the conversation about menopause care, all aspects of it, the importance of it, and the comfort with using hormones, and knowing that, yes, there are safe options. We know how to do it. We know when to initiate it. If we do it at the right time, if we do it with the right products, if we do the proper monitoring, then the benefits greatly outweigh the risk for the majority of patients. And I think we can help a lot more women if the conversation is one potentially started by your provider. I feel like that's still not happening. I think providers are still waiting for their patients to come in and complain about something. I'd really love the shift for, at everyone's annual visit when they're, in their 40s, even like 43, 44, when we know things are going to be changing in the future, just opening up the conversation about, over these next few years, you might be starting to have some symptoms. If you do, make sure you come back and see me. And I think that proactive care, I think, would be my vision for the future rather than reactive care.
I have this visual of making like a flyer and just sending it to all the people so that when you go into your clinic, you can just put it on all the cars, when you walk in. You're like, are you close to menopause? Like, these are the symptoms. Like, I mean, people just need to know. It's insane that we don't know. I think it is just such a tragedy. I mean, I just think about how many women have we lost, just to going kind of blank to life over the years just because they thought they were crazy. I mean, it's just so sad. So I want to wrap this up and make sure people know where to find you. Tell them where to find you, website, phone number, all of the things.
MaysWomen'sHealth.com, right? And our phone number is 914-328-3700. I'm pretty sure we have an Instagram.
Yes.
And we have 2 offices. We have an office in Westchester, Purchase, New York, and then also in Manhattan. So we have 2 locations. We have Instagram.
Yep. I'll be posting all of your information. I just wanted to. Yep. I'll get all your information, and they are also listed on our resources page and our directory at wakeherup.co. And their website, even if you're not near New York, I do have to say your blog, the resources you have on your page is so incredible. I link to it quite often in the newsletter, and it is really, really well done. So I really appreciate what you're doing there. And just to kind of wrap up, the podcast is called Wake Her Up. My book is called Wake Her Up. I did not know anything about hormones before I wrote that book. It was all about just awakening your soul. So I'd love to end with asking you personally about just maybe like an awakening moment in your life. When was that? What did that feel like? When just kind of like, wow, I just woke up.
Oh, I think I'm still waking up. And I hope to continue to be waking up.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about waking up. You got to do it every damn day,
Exactly. I'm really waking up.
What is something that wakes you up? What's something that kind of lights your soul on fire? What is that for you?
I really have to say, given what we're talking about, that is really what fuels me. Coming in, knowing that, we're being real with women, helping women treating women.
Yeah. I mean, personally for me, I feel like working at Mays has been a wonder for my marriage, just because I've been, focusing my whole career on, the importance of sexual health and having a good sex life and how that helps a marriage. And, I think that I was lucky that I, even when I was like in the throes of little kids and trying to buy a house and like all of those things, every day I was talking about sex with other women and knowing how important it is to their marriages. So, so I know what we do is really important work, and it sounds silly because we are sexual health practitioners, but I really do think that what we do can change lives and does make our lives better, because this is what we do every day.
Well, you are making our lives better. And we just really, really appreciate, just on behalf of the millions of women that need to know that someone like you exists, you have created a lot of hope today. And I just really appreciate that what you're doing exists. It is what we need. And I hope that we end up finding Mays in every state, everywhere. Let's take it to Australia. I have a lot of people watching from Australia, and they're like, when are you coming over here? We got you, Australia. We see you. We're coming. It's amazing to watch this and have a front row seat. I think we've got to have you back. I know that this was like a high level conversation about just kind of what you do and what exists out there. But I would love to have you back where we can dive deep into the benefits of, orgasm, benefits of sexual wellness. Like, let's get specific here. What are we talking about, right? Like, what tools and tricks do we need, literally? So, let's talk about that. We're going to put that together. I'd love to have that for another episode. You guys are lovely. I cannot wait to do this again. And I just want to get on a plane and come out there too, because I am a sucker for New York.
It's now your turn to wake up the woman inside of you. Come hang out with us in our private community and find all the resources you need to feel awake and alive at wakeherup.co. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. Please leave a review and let me know how this episode helped to wake her up.